Some crimes shake the world because of their brutality. Some, because of the pain they inflict on innocent victims. And then, there are crimes so disturbing, so beyond human comprehension, that they leave even seasoned investigators horrified. This is the story of Peter Scully, an Australian man whose name has become synonymous with one of the darkest chapters in the history of crime and the internet. Peter Gerard Scully was born in 1963 in Melbourne, Australia. To his neighbors and acquaintances, he seemed ordinary. But behind this facade, Scully was already living a life built on deception. In the early 2000s, he was investigated for fraud schemes in Australia, involving financial scams and property deception. When authorities began closing in, Scully fled. He moved first to Southeast Asia, eventually settling in the Philippines. It was there that his crimes escalated far beyond fraud, into something far more sinister. On the surface, Scully was just another foreigner blending into life in the Philippines. But in reality, he was building one of the most disturbing child exploitation networks ever uncovered. Scully's crimes involved the production and distribution of what is known as hardcore videos. These are extreme forms of child sexual abuse material that often involve elements of torture. Operating from safe houses in the Philippines, Scully and his accomplices lured children from impoverished families, often with false promises of food, money, or shelter. Once in his custody, the children were subjected to unimaginable abuse, which Scully filmed and sold to clients across the world through the dark web. Among the videos linked to him, one in particular gained global notoriety, a recording known as Daisy's Destruction. It was so brutal that even veteran investigators, accustomed to dealing with the worst types of crime, described it as the most horrific footage they had ever encountered. Scully was also accused of the murder of at least one young girl, whose remains were discovered buried beneath one of his rental houses in the Philippines. This showed that his actions went far beyond abuse and exploitation, they extended to taking innocent lives. In 2015, after years of international cooperation between law enforcement agencies, Peter Scully was tracked down and arrested in the city of Malabale, in the southern Philippines. The arrest was not just the result of local investigation, it was a combined effort of Philippine authorities, Interpol, and other international cybercrime units who had been tracing his online activities and following the trail of victims. Alongside Scully, several of his accomplices were arrested, including women who had played roles in luring or controlling victims. In 2018, Scully was convicted of human trafficking and multiple counts of rape. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. But that was not the end. In June of 2022, a Philippine court handed him an additional sentence of 129 years in prison for further convictions. More cases against him are still ongoing, meaning his total prison time may continue to increase. The Peter Scully case is considered one of the darkest examples of how modern technology, particularly the dark web, can be exploited for criminal purposes. The case led to global awareness campaigns, stronger laws, and tougher crackdowns on online child exploitation networks. Organizations dedicated to child protection often cite Scully's crimes as a turning point, a wake-up call for the dangers lurking in the hidden corners of the internet. Peter Scully remains in prison, serving multiple life sentences. His name is etched into history not for greatness, but as a symbol of cruelty and evil. While justice has been served in his case, the scars he left behind remain permanent for his victims and their families. The story of Peter Scully is not just about one man's horrific crimes. It is a warning, about the dark side of human nature, the dangers of unchecked technology, and the urgent need to protect those who cannot protect themselves. This is the Dark Ledger. Thank you for watching, and remember, some shadows are darker than we can ever imagine.